Unless the racism is addressed and eradicated in the places you're looking to make diverse, you're simply bringing in people of color into violent and unsafe spaces. The exact sentiments of this tweet is the reason why Dr. Martin Luther King said, "I fear I'm integrating my people into a burning home." You know, it becomes a time we have to discuss the illusion of inclusion and how even though we're able to be allowed in particular spaces, it doesn't erase the pathology or the inherent devaluing of our presence in those spaces. Goddamn, you want to be celebrated and not tolerated. It's a sentiment I heard a lot from the old folks growing up where I grew up at. In many instances, a lot of our notions of diversity and inclusion is centered around exactly that, tolerance. And if they just tolerate my ass for a diversity initiative, oh, I can feel it in my spirit. Not only that, I don't even feel welcome. I just feel like I'm being tolerated. Mix that in with a whole bunch of microaggressions and implicit bias with a little bit of anti-blackness. Oh, we got a perfect recipe for material and rhetorical violence, don't we? Education is elevation. And what are your notions of diversity and inclusion? Crazy I have to make this video because we live in a time now where diversity and inclusion is being criminalized on many different levels. However, what does it mean to you? Education is elevation. You feel me?
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we'll be talking about black people suffering in America from the illusion of inclusion. If it's the first time of coming here to my channel, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel, like, share, and drop your comments in the comment section, and turn on your notification bell also so that you keep getting heads up and updates from me. Credit belongs to the owners of the clips and stitches I'll be attaching to this video. And this video is also for educational purposes and not to lash on anyone. With that being said, peace and love. Let's get into it.
What separation, right, that created, what divide that created. But really 339 years and we're still here with no help. We are a miracle.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We are a miracle. Because I think what people don't understand is that how American chattel slavery differed from other forms of slavery that preceded it. So if you think about, and this is the kind of pushback you get when you talk about slavery. Well, I wasn't there. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And that was, look at how long ago that was, and they cannot seem to connect the dots on that. But what made it unique from any other form of enslavement was the manner in which a person became enslaved, the length of servitude, the treatment of the enslaved, and how they were perceived as human beings. Before the European slave trade began, most people who became enslaved became so as a result of war. Two societies went to war, winners enslaved the losers, so on and so forth. But Europeans systematically turned the capturing, shipping, and breeding of other human beings into a business that would become the backbone of an entire economy.
Yeah.
You see, that's different. And it was situated around a belief in our intrinsic dehumanization, our lack of humanness. We were not perceived as full humans. And therefore, because we were not full humans, we didn't have to be treated like humans. And while that, you may say, well, that was alone, that was so ignorant. I believe it was over 222, I think, 222 medical students. This was a study that was done in 2016 that still believed that black people didn't feel pain on the level of white people.
Right.
Okay, so we're looking at those beliefs that have matriculated into contemporary society. The other myth is that slavery ended and the playing field got leveled, right? Everything was okay. And that's just not true, because after slavery came the multitude of lynchings, all the way up through George Floyd, Breonna. It goes all the way. When did the actual injury and assault stop? Malcolm X said, if you stick a knife 9 inches into my back and you pull it out 3, that's not progress. Even if you pull the knife all the way out, that's not progress. Progress is healing the wound, and America hasn't pulled out the knife. That's where we are.
And you talk about America not pulling out the knife because America doesn't really want to own up to the truth of how inhumane slavery and American chattel slavery really was.
Well, again, that is a door that no one wants to open because it creates cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance occurs when you are simultaneously holding contradictory ideas, beliefs, habits. And I often, I often tell people I was in Portland, and in Portland, Oregon. God help me. When I was in Portland, you could, if you cough, somebody's going to offer you a herb, tell you how much echinacea you should have, and they say it's a place where nice clothes go to die, because people wear, socks with Birkenstocks.
Yeah.
I wish it weren't true, but yeah, it is. And these are the same people. If you ask, well, I'm vegan. Okay, good. Yeah, it's wonderful. I jog at least, 3 to 5 miles a day. Okay. I also smoke crack on the weekend. Now, you see, this would then be a contradiction. And what they do to deal with the dissonance associated with that is you do all those other things.
Yeah.
And see, America's dissonance is we have a country that has prided itself on democracy, on send us your poor, you're tired, you're huddled masses yearning to breathe free, one nation under God. And all of those great, wonderful pronouncements would be great if at the same time you weren't enslaving
Right.
African people and committing genocide against indigenous people.
Right.
How do you reconcile that conflict? And again, here's the thing that's so deep. They say, well, it's so upsetting and troubling. We can't teach African American history. We can't. Well, it's history.
Right.
Okay, first of all, but
Right.
we can't teach it. It's going to upset the little children. They're going to feel guilty. They're going to, be cowering in the corners. Well, my niece, recently, this is very recently, that, the last year or so, her job was to go around the state of Oregon, and share history. And she shared the history of Thomas Jefferson, oh boy, and, Phyllis Wheatley. And then she would give them these questions afterwards. And one of the things that Thomas Jefferson said was that black people weren't smart and could not be creative. They could not produce art.
Right.
Right. These are the things that he said, and in my presentations, of course, I show things that really, really contradict that whole idea. But she asks her students, these are sixth grade, predominantly white students. She asks them, why do you think Thomas Jefferson might have said that black people weren't smart and couldn't be creative? And one of the kids said, well, when you objectify people, it's easy to look at them as lesser than you. Another one said, because if people thought that black people were smart and black people were creative, then they wouldn't want to make them slaves.
Right.
And then that would lose him a lot of money. Right? Another one said, well, he's racist. The other one said, over and over again, I said, do these sound like children cowering in a corner,
Right.
afraid? No, they're clear. And they're not going to adopt those perspectives of their parents. That's why they don't want it taught. What's the problem? They can't, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, all of it. And so when you think of that, if we're eliminating Rosa Parks,
Come on.
you think I'm going to let you talk about American chattel slavery? The rape, the pillage, the destruction of people, the experimentation, all of those things?
Yeah.
No, but this is the truth. And I believe that truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtue. Without truthfulness, you cannot attain the other virtues. You have to first tell the truth.
Yeah.
And that's fundamental as an educator, as a clinician. When people come to me for therapy, when I was, doing one-on-one therapy, inevitably they come with a presenting problem. Well, it's my 14-year-old. She's acting out. And I'll start there. But there's always a secret. And the secrets make us sick.
I want you to get into this because even when you talk about in the book, which your book is on the banned book list.
Yeah.
Your book, you can't put this in the schools.
Oh, no.
And I was telling my sister, I was like, I think we need to make our book club a banned book club.
Yeah.
Because we have to be able to make sure that our children, that our friends, that our cousins, that our sisters know this information. Because it's hiding right in plain sight.
Yes.
Because you talk about the secrets keeping us sick, and how many of us, when we look back from a cultural lens, right, at our own lives and our own families, and we see how sickness and disease plagues Black people at alarming rates. And you really give voice to that because you talk about, I mean, we can look at Harriet Washington's medical apartheid. You talk about the experimentations. I want you to talk about how we have allowed the secrets to keep making us sick.
So one of the things that I did is I began to. My family is from Louisiana. My father only went to the 6th grade.
The Asiatic black man.
Asiatic black man. He was serious. My dad, but my father used to he'd make this statement. He'd say, if a white man has a cold, then the black man has pneumonia, right? And so part of the injury, the assault on black people, is them beginning to believe some of the myths. The other thing is to understand, because inevitably someone always asks me, they go, well, how do I understand? How do you connect connect slavery with contemporary African American behavior? I said, how can you not?
How can you not?
How can you not? 339 years of trauma and survival and adaptation. I mean, you learn how to survive in hostile environments. And surviving isn't always pretty. It isn't always pretty, but it's very functional. So I have to give examples of how that shows up. So one of the things I do in my audience is I'll say, well, if I shoot this person that's on the front row, is everyone in agreement that they're traumatized?
Yes.
And everyone goes, yeah, I think we can go with that.
Yeah.
Right. I said, all right. So now the person that's seated next to the person that's shot, they too are traumatized because they saw it. Someone in the hall hears the shot, later finds out who it is, they're traumatized. They call the person who's been shot, they call their family that are in Oklahoma and tell them what's happened. They're traumatized. Now, at the same time, you may have someone that's just maybe one aisle away that saw the whole thing.
So I'm not sure if you know, but you actually just proved my point further. This is a really great segue into talking about the illusion of inclusion. Because here's the thing about whiteness and its definition is that unless you are a WASP, which is a white Anglo-Saxon person, you will never be considered white. Here's the thing about whiteness, though, is that it will expand the definition of whiteness in order for it to gain power. It will expand the definition of whiteness if those who are willing to be foot soldiers for the white concept are willing to pretty much do its bidding. No, you're not white. No, you will actually never be considered white. But the privileges of being white are dangled over your head like a carrot on a stick. Because if you're foolish enough to believe that they are willing to allow you to be a part of whiteness, I'm honestly not going to stop you. However, I need you to be very aware of the fact that the illusion of inclusion does not mean that you are wanted or accepted.
Okay, this video is for the highly sensitive beings, the ones that see past the illusions, and the ones that is seeking higher consciousness and not looking for validation in society. I don't know. I know it's just not me that is picking up on this illusion of inclusion when it comes to the Black community. The illusion of inclusion is like all of a sudden I'm noticing that like even like with the like commercials on TV or just the movies that's being on these platforms, like Netflix and things like that, that there are a lot of Black commercials using certain words and terminologies to make us feel like we're finally being seen, or the ones who have the stronger desire to be seen and heard and things like that. I just feel like the media has been gaslighting the Black community since the beginning of media or any type of influence that they had at the time to reach the masses. There has always been a Black exploitation when it comes to us having the desire to be seen and be accepted in society. See, my thing is society will never accept us. Those of a Caucasian descent, most 98% of them, if they don't think like actually us and they can't empathize with us, they're never going to see us as their equal or better than them. When in fact, historically, historically, let me change that up. We are the gods, you know. And my thing is, why is it? I mean, really question why is it that they want us to feel so included when it's an illusion? We're not included because out here in the real world, when you're dealing with these people, you still get the vibe that it's prejudice. You know, I still get vibes of prejudice when I'm out here dealing with these Caucasians, most of them, my neighborhood, at the stores, everywhere, right? So something is definitely off. It's definitely a tactic here that they're using with the illusion of inclusion when it comes to the Black community, because they want to be seen and heard and accepted and validated by the white community so much that they're most people praise it, like, yay, we got all these movies, we got these commercials. Like, I literally just seen a commercial on YouTube talking about, yeah, we got this movie and that movie on Netflix, this movie and you know, and we got this celebrity. And listen, these celebrities, they are a part of the scam, they are a part of the tactic, they are a part of the illusion. Don't be silly. And they know exactly what they're doing. Everything is already pre-calculated. They already know what they're doing. And furthermore, the Black community is the one that spend the most money, because the Black community has such a strong desire to want to look like, to be respected, or, you know, to be validated. They got something to prove, so they want to spend up all their money on some bullshit. Keep that in mind. So they want to keep you right there on edge, like dangling the illusion of inclusion right there while you on age. Like, yes, okay, because they know they really just want your money and they want to maintain power and control. So I just need y'all to really think about this. Tell me what you think down in the comments. And all of these celebrities will be exposed. Even the ones that you feel like is oh so innocent and they could do no wrong, they're going to be exposed too, because they're all a part of this patriarchal system. They all know the secrets, or the secrets and the hidden knowledge and all of this, you know, uh like manipulation. They all know that they're manipulating the masses. They get paid, and Blacks barely get paid to manipulate their own kind. Okay, this is like a genocide on a psychological level. Oh, that just hit me. This is like a genocide on a psychological level. You feel me? Like, no, these people know exactly what they're doing. They're going down. Okay, okay. Matriarchal is rising again.
Like Democrats are very clever, because what they do is they manipulate Republican racism against blacks to the benefit of the Democratic Party. So, for example, let's take the George Floyd police bill. Still hasn't been passed.
It hasn't. No.
When the Democrats had a majority in Congress, it still didn't get passed. Nope. When the Democrats were in charge, it still didn't get passed. You know why? They didn't want the George Floyd bill any more than the Republicans. But what they did was they do what? They wait until the Republicans have a majority, then they bring it up for a vote. Okay. So now when it doesn't pass, the Republicans kept the George Floyd bill.
So they at fault, yeah.
Exactly. But what about when you was in the majority?
Right.
Why didn't it come to the floor when you had a chance to pass it? Because you didn't want it either. So what the Democrats do is they stifle anything that benefits black people while they're in charge. And they wait till the Republicans come out, and then they enter it when they know it's not going to pass. That's how they control us. We are literally under a two-party dictatorship. Black people suffer from the illusion of inclusion. Yeah. And that's what keeps us loyal to the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. Get off of both of them.
Black people suffer in America from the illusion of inclusion. So the phrase illusion of inclusion refers to a condition where marginalized groups appears to be accepted and integrated into mainstream society. But the acceptance is superficial. It implies that wide formal barriers like segregations and overt discrimination may have been dismantled. So deeper systemic inequalities and social hierarchies persist in the context of black people in America. And this illusion often masks ongoing racial disparities beneath the surface of apparent progress. Now, historical context. After the civil rights movement of the 1960s, America saw landmark legislative victories. So the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and the Fair Housing Act. So these laws promised equality and full participation in public life. The election of black officials, including the first black president, Barack Obama, was often seen or viewed as evidence of post-racial America. Yet, this sense of inclusion can be deceptive, while visible representation have improved or has improved the systemic inequalities in wealth, in education, in healthcare, and in criminal justice. All of this remained entrenched. So the illusion lies in mistaking symbolic progress for structural transformation. Yeah. Now, economic and social dimensions. Number one, economic inequality. Despite the decades of progress, the racial wealth gap remains vast. So, according to data from the Federal Reserve, the median white family holds roughly 6 to 8 times the wealth of the median black family. This disparity is rooted in historical injustices, in slavery, redlining, employment discrimination that has or have not been fully repaired. Economic participation may appear inclusive, but the playing field is uneven. 2, education and employment. Black Americans have greater access to education than ever before, yet soon schools in predominantly black neighborhoods often remain underfunded, like they underfund them. Now, inclusion in corporate or academic spaces can sometimes be tokenistic. So individuals are invited in it, but not empowered to influence culture or policy. 3, the criminal justice system. Mass incarceration disproportionately affects the black communities. Racial profiling, sentencing, racial profiling and sentencing disparities, including police violence, that demonstrate that inclusion in the rights and protections of citizenship remains incomplete. So the Black Lives Matter movement expose how the state often fails to protect black lives equality. Cultural and psychological dimensions. The representation in media, politics, and popular culture suggests that black people have made it. The representation without real power can reinforce the illusion. So the black celebrities, the athletes, the politicians becomes symbols of progress, while structural inequities continues to harm the broader communities. Yes, this illusion creates psychological strain, and individuals navigate spaces that seem inclusive but are subtly hostile and performatively diverse. So many black professionals report feeling isolated, tokenized, or expected to conform to white cultural norms. Why? Why all this? Now, critical perspectives. When you look at Bell's interest convergence theory, from critical risk theory, argues that racial progress only occurs when it aligns with the white interests. This suggests inclusion may often serve to stabilize and not dismantle the racial hierarchies. Afro-pessimist thinkers like Frank Widersen suggest that anti-blackness is foundational to American identity. So it means that true inclusion, is structurally impossible without a fundamental reimagining of the illusion. So others, such as Cornel West and what's his name again? Ta-Nehisi, quotes, Ta-Nehisi quotes, argue that black people's apparent inclusion marks the persistence of racialized vulnerability, exposure to the economic, social, and physical harm that white Americans really face. So now my conclusion on this is that the illusion of inclusion is a paradox. It reflects progress and deception simultaneously. The black Americans have achieved visibility and legal equality, but not full social or economic justice through inclusion. True inclusion would have dismantled the system that perpetuates inequality, not simply allowing the black people to exist within them until representation translates into redistribution of power, opportunity, and dignity. So inclusion will remain for many an illusion. Inclusion will remain for many an illusion. So if it's the first time of coming into my channel, please do subscribe to my channel and don't forget to turn on your notification bell, share, like, and in the comment section, drop your comments, your observations, your ideas, your questions, and let's keep the ship sailing forward. With this being said, don't forget also that this video is for educational purposes and not to lash on anyone. Credit belongs to the owners of the stitches that will be attached on this video. With this being said, I'll say bye for now. Peace and love.